folks, you are more than welcome to the Coffee at 11 show this beautiful spring morning in lockdown heaven. And I'm here this morning with my very special guest and a friend for some years now, Brendan Ring. Brendan, please say hello and cheers.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, and thank you very much, Colm, for inviting me to your coffee morning this morning. Delighted to get an opportunity to chat with everybody and have already been speaking to some of your team. Great idea, I must say. And you can see that this is going to grow into something very big and special. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Brendan. Thank you, Brendan. It's COVID born, just as an idea. So we threw it out there, and it's something's happening. Something is happening. So delighted. I'd like to also welcome Terry Ring into the cafe. Terry's there. We'll bring you in later, Terry, if that's okay. But Terry is Brendan's wife. Let me tell you a little bit about Brendan before I pass over to the man himself, because we really want to get to know you a little more, Brendan, if that's okay with you in the next 30 minutes or so. So Brendan is Managing Director of Cube, a business founded in 1996, leading provider of print and packaging solutions, 32 dedicated and professional personnel working there. Do everything from flyers to posters to now some niche markets opening up, which is really interesting, where speed of delivery is as important, speed of turnaround, I should say, is as important as the quality of the product itself. And Cube has the processes and the people to make sure that that happens. Secondarily, or perhaps primarily, depending on how you look at it, Brendan is the co-founder, along with Terry, of Cliona's Foundation. And Cliona's Foundation serves families who have children in their care suffering from life-limiting illnesses. And Cliona's Foundation has been named after their daughter Cliona, who unfortunately they lost in 1998, age 15. And our heartfelt condolences to you, albeit many years later. But I was saying yesterday in introducing you, Brendan, that I think something like that would have devastated most of us. Yourself and Terry have in fact turned that into a positive somehow. Don't know how, hope we might find out a little bit about that in a moment. And you've turned Cliona's memory into a foundation that's serving many families, 750 families to date, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So you are more than welcome. Thank you for taking the time out this morning to be with us here on the Coffee at 11 show. Brendan, will you take us back to the early days? Just bring us up to speed. You've met us for the first time. Who are you? Where are you from? Etc. Thanks.
Thanks, Colm. I was born in County Limerick, a place called Bruff. Both my parents were self-employed. My mother ran the local post office there, and my father was in the building industry and a number of different other entrepreneurial adventures as well during his lifetime. So probably that's where the genes came from originally. I was educated in Munchins because we had a large family. Our parents felt that we needed to go to college, and we were sent to boarding school because they knew that we wouldn't study at home because of all the business that were going on, and they couldn't give us the attention primarily from our educational point of view. And it was a huge sacrifice by them really to put us through college back then, because it wasn't cheap, and we didn't come from a wealthy background by any means whatsoever. It was very hard earned, and so I'm always reminded about that. And my own mother hasn't been well either recently. She'll, please God, be 92 shortly. 3 weeks ago, actually tomorrow, we were told she was passing away. It was a horrific time, and all the memories came back to all. I had to go, look, I got to see her for a few minutes to say goodbye really, and all those things came back, flooding back of all the good things she'd done for me and the family. And I said that to her, but look, she's rallied, she's very good. And we mentioned the word earlier on there, and Lazarus, it's just fantastic, our parents, my mother, it's great to have her. So, but anyway, went to St. Munchins, finished up there, and a brother of mine at the time, sadly, has died since, had a business, and I was working for him. He was in the fitted kitchen business in O'Connell Street, and it was during the first summer after finishing college, and I was after finishing Munchins, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And the lecturer from the School of Professional Studies, I don't know if anybody remember that, Leslie Toms, came into the store, into the shop, and he said, "What are you going to be doing going forward?" And I said, "I'd love to stay working for my brother." And he said, "I think you should think about maybe going to college and getting some kind of a degree." So I ended up in doing industrial engineering, and thank God I did. And I believe that firmly. Like there's no such thing as coincidence in life. Things happen for a reason. Even we'll talk a little bit later about Cliona herself. Why did that happen? And I have my own thoughts and beliefs, as does Terry, about that. So after finishing college, again, my brother Sean, who I'd worked for, he had changed jobs then, actually went through some difficult times in his own business and worked for another brother of mine. And unfortunately, he has also died, two of them tragically. So we've been through, and that I'll come back to that, we've been through an awful lot as a family, but it strengthened us as well. And we were very united because of a lot of the hardships we went through. But I ended up working for an American company here in Limerick. And I went in as an industrial engineer. I was, employee number 3, and they were manufacturers of printing presses. So I worked with them right up to 1995, and unfortunately, I was made redundant in 1995. Now, they did keep me on, and I retained their franchise here in Ireland for maybe about 12 to 18 months until I got Cube up and running with a good friend and partner of mine at the time, Frank Fitzsimons. And that was the start of Cube in 1996. Again, came out of being made redundant. It's not easy. It's very difficult. I took it hard personally. I couldn't understand it. Couldn't get my head around it, and difficult for Terry and Colm and Cliona at the time as well, I'm sure. But look, Cube was born from that, and we're here today talking about the success of Cube. And so that's really me. I spent 13 years there until 1996, and I'm here in Cube, and as you know, I started set up Cliona's with Terry after Cliona died in 1998. Yeah.
Yeah, it's some history there, Brendan. Thank you for that. And all that does, it just settles us all in to figure out what we're dealing with. Because one of the things that I think you'll agree with, people tend to look at business owners, yourself included, and they think, "Oh, your man had it all together all his life," right? There's this perception out there, which is far from the case in almost every case. It's hard work and slog, and being surrounded by hard work and slog, and ethics and all that stuff, and you, by osmosis, if you like, you take it in, and your journey unfolds. Absolutely. So yeah, congrats on Cube, and from humble beginnings, 32 staff. You're telling me that, and we get to Cliona's Foundation in just a few moments, but let's stick with Cube for a moment, if that's okay. You were telling me that you've recently you've diversified into another area with some significant investment. Would you touch on that, please? Yeah,
the background to that really started in 2008, 2009. We had an extremely massive account with Dell here in Limerick, probably 60% of our turnover. Then, it was 5 million of an account on its own. We didn't lose it. Dell left Limerick, and so there was no need for the print anymore to be supplied to them, obviously, because they went to Poland, and subsequently they have gone on to China and so forth. And so back then, actually, the economic downturn at Dell stay wouldn't have affected us anyway. In particular, we would have gone from strength to strength. But we had about 40 staff plus at the time, and as I mentioned earlier, Frank Fitzsimons, we had to go. Maybe I think we reduced our staff to about 12. But we vowed ourselves that time that we were never going to end up in a situation again that anything ever happened economically or otherwise, that our business would be affected by an outside force, if that's the way of putting it. Not knowing about COVID, but we then decided to kind of specialize in the whole area of medtech, pharma, and working with the production accounts. That's not to say that our commercial business isn't very important to us, but right now, if we relied on our commercial business, we wouldn't be open this morning. So today, we're here producing information for use guides. We're producing product information leaflets for a lot of the medtech pharma companies. Some of them even producing respiratory products today. So we're very busy, and one of the companies that needs to stay open to provide, the print and packaging is very important, because you can't ship a product, it's by law, without an IFU or a product information leaflet. And just before COVID, and again, if you came in and looked at it just from this morning, we made a massive investment just at the end of last year, beginning January, probably has set us back about $750,000, and by the time we resource it, with staff and so forth, and even we've done investment actually in the last couple of weeks into the packaging area, because there's a direct link between producing a booklet and a leaflet and the product that it goes with. So on the medtech pharma side, you've got your stent, or you've got your indicator, glucose, or we do product booklets for multiple sclerosis. We do booklets for fire alarms, smoke alarms, and stuff like that. So there was a reconnection in relation to producing the packaging for that and the booklet. So we invested in that in last year. And right now it's quite quiet down there. We've taken over another 6,000 square feet unit here near us. It's quiet, but it was still the right decision, even though if you looked at it on its own this morning, you would have thought that it was the wrong decision. But I've no doubt that once things come back and get up and running, we'll be able to drive on with the business. We have a great sales team here, and I see Kevin Downs is on here this morning as well. Kevin joined us. Well, Kevin's been with us since he was going to college in Galway studying sales and marketing. He worked his way up through Cube, and we were glad to bring him on board 3 years ago. So he's helped to head up the packaging division, and he's working remotely from home to do that for us right now. So it's going to go well for us. But again, the point I'm trying to make is, if you can keep investing, even in the tough times, and keep changing, and the word people are using now is pivoting, and it's very important to do that and think outside the box. So yeah, Cube's gone from strength to strength. We've added that packaging division, so it's a seamless opportunity for us, and I've no doubt it'll go from strength to strength.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm thinking, think outside the box when you're in fact creating boxes to put your leaflets in. So,
okay, very good. Yeah.
Great stuff. But I did write down the word pivot when you were talking. It's all about pivoting. When I came to Limerick first in 1998, I was first introduced to your company around then, and one of the big pieces of business, if I'm not mistaken, at the time was you producing leaflets for Dell.
Correct.
Right, and of course we all know what happened. Dell left the country, and it was catastrophic for the Midwest. So I think Cube is a textbook case of constantly pivoting. The phrase Wayne Gretzky, skate to where the puck is going to be, I think perfectly defines you and your team at Cube. You're asking yourself, okay, what's it like now? It's like this. What might it be like in the future? And you're skating to where the puck is going to be. We wish you every success with that significant investment in your packaging division, and with young Kevin Downs on the team there leading the charge. Not a bad hurler apparently as well. But with him on the team, I think it'll be super. Happy days. Listen, we're going to go to COVID where you are in just a moment, but I think it's appropriate, if you don't mind, because the sort of parallel stories here that are completely intertwined as well, and that's Cliona's foundation. Mm. Are you happy to talk to us about Cliona? And
yeah, and I speak a lot about Cliona's foundation, and always I feel this morning as if I'm in a small room with a lot of friends and people that I don't know. So yeah, it's more personal now here, but that's good for me too, and it helps me to really probably try and share the story honestly and passionately, as both Terry and I are, about Cliona's. Look, Terry and I have two children, but we still believe Cliona's with us, and that's important. And I firmly believe that she's looking after us, and anybody else that needs our help as well. But we have two children, Colm and Cliona, and basically when Cliona was 7, she came home from school on a Friday, just like tomorrow now will be Friday. She went to school perfectly well in our eyes, and had bumped her head against the blackboard, stepping out of her seat. And Terry was at home at the time, after work herself. She was working at the time for Michael Murray, the state solicitor. And she asked Cliona what happened. Cliona said, I bumped my head off the blackboard. Terry was concerned, brought her to our local GP, great man, who's unfortunately passed on. Lots of experience, and obviously saw what we didn't see immediately and sent Cliona straight to Limerick. At the time, I was heavily involved in a soccer club out in Knockany, and we were running a fundraiser that night, and I hadn't heard from Terry, and I got tied up with that, and I called Terry later on. Now she called me, she said, "Brendan, you need to come into Limerick." So I did. We went into town and in the university, in the regional at the time, and we stayed the night with Cliona. And next morning, after having a scan, the professor there at the time said, "Look, there's a suspected brain tumour there for Cliona's, and we need to send you to Cork." So we were rushed to Cork. No, we weren't rushed. Cliona want to be rushed anywhere. And actually, the first draft of her book, which we've been writing just over the last 2 years, it just arrived last weekend. And the opening forward in the book describes how Cliona sees how we reacted to that day and brings back an awful lot of memories. And she said, I was worrying, and Terry was in the corner being as strong as ever, saying everything will be fine here. And Cliona herself saying, all I want to do is get back home, get back to my friends, go back to school, and I'm fine, Jack. And that's the way she was, very resilient. But we went to Cork, and on Sunday afternoon, 27th of November, it was confirmed that Cliona had an inoperable brain tumour. She had lots of surgeries because she had to have shunts to move the fluid around her brain. She had undergone 18 months of chemotherapy, which meant us and a lot to do really with Terry travelling up and down to Dublin, because it was at the time, 1998, you must remember, we were just at the starting cube. I was had been made unemployed, so there was a lot going on. I referred there to my brother as well. He had died of a brain tumour the year before, so we were under fierce pressure, unbelievable. And only for Cliona and the type of child she is, I don't think we would be the parents that we are now. She's definitely changed us for the very good. So look, rolling on the years, I could talk forever about her herself, and obviously after Cliona passed away in 2006, as I said, just before, and in December, just before her 16th birthday. She died because the brain tumour was inoperable. We tried to have an operation during that summer with a great consultant, Professor Charles Marks, who actually is in the book himself as well. And he took it personally that Cliona didn't get through it, but he also explains to us how well it was taken by the Ring family and by Cliona herself to a degree as to the way it turned out. And we never held any, we've no problems with the way it turned out. We were grateful to have Cliona and that we had a loan of her, because that's where we see it for 15 years. And so the foundation was set up, and what we do is we provide money and support for families for the non-medical expenses, because all these families have got accommodation that they need to stay in when they're looking after other children that have got life living in this, just like our Cliona's. They need to take time off work. Terry gave up a job, I mentioned that earlier, so who's going to pay for that? There is the day-to-day household bills that still keep coming in, and you've got all this pressure and you don't need it. So we're there to alleviate in some way that little financial stress. We've gone on to do an academic report named Too Dear to Visit, which actually sums up what we're saying is that it's too expensive to visit your families in Ireland. We get no support. So the academic report tells us, and it was written on a pro bono basis by Professor Charles Norman, who works in research for the HSE. He wrote it because he had a brother who still remains in this world with a life-limiting condition. So he understood what we were trying to do. And what that tells us is each family needs net income about 10 to 12,000 annually to look after a child for any 1 year. So in our case, Cliona was with us for 8 years. So we would have spent about 100,000 euros additionally as a minimum. And I know it was much, much more in our case for Cliona. And I'd like to also, which I'm not here to talk about, the VHI, they were extremely good to us. Cliona's last bill was something like almost €500,000. And I know we paid our health insurance, but you know, they picked up the tab on that. And anytime we wanted to go on holidays, we've got to get clearance from them and from our doctor, Cliona's professor, our consultant, and they always helped us to do that. So like going on holidays, we built that into our lives at home, because Cliona taught us to set goals and milestones to try and achieve, to keep you going, to keep Cliona alive, and to keep the family positive. And we've taken those and built those into our daily routine and into our life's routine and our business and in the foundation. And so that's our job, is to continue to help those families. We've helped 750 families. I think we've raised almost 2 million euros on a voluntary basis, and all in the whole island of Ireland. And you know, that's our passion now. And you know, it's my goal to try and step out of the cube with the help of the likes of TJ here, and sales director Kevin and the team, and hopefully focus more of my time in the years to come on Cliona's Foundation.
Brendan and Terry, thank you for being here and for sharing. Tough. The word that comes to mind when I'm listening to you, and I wasn't scribbling notes for a change, right, is just graciousness, and gratefulness.
Yeah.
Cliona is still your child. She hasn't gone away. She's still, you said we've got 2 children.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody else in the cafe today can fathom what you've been through. I don't know that any of us can, because we haven't been there, right? But you were gracious in every aspect of this. You were gracious that she stayed with you for 8 years. Quick question, if I may. The bump on the blackboard, it was only because that didn't cause the issue. Am I right in saying that?
No, her vision had been impaired, which we weren't aware of, and she misjudged the distance between the blackboard and herself. And that when the tumour was there, it could have been there since birth. We don't know how she got it really.
Okay.
We could surmise a couple of things that did happen during her life, which I don't want to really get into. No. But no, thank God that she bumped into the blackboard, because at least then we found this sooner than maybe we would have had.
And that was my point. I wondered, was that just the moment that allowed you to identify there was a problem? It obviously was, and then you had 8 more years, regrettably knowing what the outcome was likely to be. But graciousness. You expressed gratitude to the surgeons. You've expressed gratitude to the VHI. A lot of bashing goes on out there. Some of it justified, a lot of it not. But here are 2 people with very real challenges, and you just exude gratefulness and graciousness. So thank you for that. And I say it one more time. We wish you every success. I'm delighted TJ's in the cafe as well. No TJ Welford.
Yeah.
Not a bad hurler either, apparently. Anyway,
just on that, Colm, and it's something that again, I think everything that I know, you learn everything that you become. And I remember somebody said to me one time, Brendan, there's no point in chasing happiness, because you can't be happy all the time, but you can certainly be grateful all the time. And look, you can be, for whatever situation you're in. So switch chasing that happiness to you don't have to chase even gratefulness or be grateful. You be grateful that we're here this morning. And I just read TikTok 10 recently, and at the end, Jerry Duffy goes on to say, look, you get to do things because people just can't do them physically or otherwise, or they're not here, or they're too unwell, or they haven't got the wherewithal, they've got mental problems, whatever. So I get to whatever it is. We all get to do things today. And so be grateful that you can get to do these things. It's really, really important.
Really well said, Brendan. We had a lovely guest on the other day, on Tuesday of this week, Kira McCullough, and she said something very similar. She said, I don't have to, I get to. I don't have to, I get to. And it reframes something that might be unsavory for whatever reason. But I just want to wish, on behalf of everybody here in the cafe, I want to wish Cube all the best, right? Because if Cube can grow the way you would like it to grow, it will free up Brendan Ring more and more to focus on perhaps, dare I say it, the more important work of Cleona's Foundation. I hope nobody minds me saying that, but it's vitally important work. And it's born out of your own experience. A, losing Cliona, shocking. And B, the reality of what you went through, 8 years up and down the road, hotel bills, et cetera, 10, 12 grand a year, extra expense in the household if there's a child with life-limiting illness. And if I am not mistaken, Cliona's basically writes an unconditional check for those non-medical expenses. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, we cover all illnesses for all the children in the whole island of Ireland. That's the important thing. Irrespective of what that illness is, as long as it meets the criteria of being a life-limiting illness. So all the illnesses that you see and read about every single day, we would come across them. Even though there are organizations out there to help people for autism or all these, they still all come to us, because one thing that nobody else really does is look at that financial element. They may do for children, maybe they just have cancer like Cliona, and we decided on that, not just because Cliona had a cancer, not just look after kids with cancer, we want to look after all children, because we met all the children. And the one thing that jumps out is when we were in the hospitals, the parents weren't there during the day with their kids. Why? We didn't know why. We weren't even thinking that way, because they couldn't afford to be there. And that's the issue. And so going back to that check, right now, since the foundation has started in 2008, so we're 12 years into it, we have a board of directors, we have 2 full-time staff. Bill is on here this morning, Bill Deegan, I think Darren may be looking in as well. So they're driving the business with us and with the board, and everything else we do then is voluntary. Terry and I are both voluntary, obviously, as is the board. So we meet every month, and Terry, in fairness to Terry, she handles all the files. And I remember the first time we sent the files for auditing because, you know, we are compliant. We're triple lock standard. We meet all the criteria from a charity. It's run like a business, even though it's very personal. And the accountant said, please don't be sending us the kids' files anymore, because they're absolutely heart-wrenching to try and read them and the hardship they're going through. So we provide that check unconditionally, a fantastic word to use. I've never used that in association with that check, but I will now go forward, Colm. Every month we sit down, and we have never, ever refused anybody. We have refused families that have come around for the second and third time, because we just can't do that. So we give little to more than lots to little. So that's the way we do with it. That's the way we deal with it. Look, if you take, there are 4,000 children with life-limiting illnesses. There are 400 children being diagnosed every year, and there are 400 children dying. So Cliona was diagnosed in 1998, in November 1998, died in December 2006. So she came in as one of the 400 in November 98 and died in 96. So the number 400 stays static. So there are always 4,000 and there are always 400. We need 10,000 each. So if you do the math just for the 400, that's 4 million. We raised last year somewhere just short of 400,000. So we've got a massive amount of bridging the gap to sort out. But look, we're giving them 1,500 euros a month instead of 10,000. Our goal, ambition, drive is to get that to 10,000 in time.
Okay, and that will happen, please God, if more and more people become aware of it. The title of your paper, Too Dear to Visit, that's shocking. Too dear to visit your own child in hospital, and your child has got a life-limiting illness with perhaps, and not necessarily always, but perhaps a time frame, on a short time frame on the journey. I don't know. I don't really want to get into that today. The reason I used the word unconditional, by the way, was funds sometimes are made available, but they must be spent on, you know, A, B, or C. Whereas you've taken the very human approach of saying, look, we know you've got cares. There you go. There's something to help you. And you and I spoke with this before, and you shared sometimes the joy of a family, or the notes that you get in when a family receives their check in the post some morning. I can't really imagine it. Can you talk to us about that for a moment?
Yeah, look, the background to this is a kind of comes from a spiritual journey. Like, we went everywhere with Cliona. Like, we were on our knees praying to God that she'd survive, and I now see why that didn't happen, and we've accepted that. So the journey then, it's the word tradition, it might be, but if you went to Lourdes, you'd always bring a photograph of a loved one, or you could bring them if you could with you, which we did with Cliona. We went to Padre Pio and San Giovanni. I went to Benny Hill Ministries. I don't know if anybody knows. I use all types of prayer groups. You do anything for a miracle, right? I'm going to be quite honest. But one of the things you'd always do, you'd carry a photograph. So we'd bring a photograph and get Cliona prayed over by different people, and they came to see her in the hospital. So in fairness, this would be Terry really would have, when we sat sending out checks, when there was never really a foundation, just us writing checks to try and help people. It was just very easy. We'd always say, could you send us on a photograph, and look, we'll pray for your child as well as give you money. So now the thank you note comes back with that photograph of the child. So we see every one of them. And again, why? I don't know, but that's how it started. And that thank you that was referred to comes with to say, look, how grateful they are. And if you look on our website, you can read those for yourself. And thanks to Frawley Branding, we've just we've just approved our new brochure. I have it here in front of me on my iPad. It's wonderful, and we'll be sending that out in PDF to people and so forth, and putting it out, and you can read about that. But the thank you notes are in there, and they're heart-wrenching. But they're, as you said, you know, it's great to be able to get a kick out of these, and you know, it's the piece that makes us do what we continue to do. It's not that we're there to hear to thank you, not at all. But it's just when you read those and how grateful and the difference that you're making, and you know, there's different aspects of it, but the common theme is grateful for the financial support, but grateful that somebody that knows what we're going through, that cares, even for that initial period, because a lot of these families have got to continue to get funding from other places. Like, I can't name them, but like there are huge fundraisers right out there today that we've helped those people get off the ground, and it's gone into the millions, and fantastic that we could help them in the initial shock and the initial piece of the journey, which I believe the first part is the toughest part. So we're there at that time because we've been through it and we understand it, and we really want to help the family. It's massively important to us. It's unbelievably important. I couldn't describe it.
I'm delighted for you. Brendan and Terry, that you do get the thank you notes, because it obviously has to mean a lot to you, has to mean a lot to your team, and it must spur you on. Let's go again. So delighted about that. What's fascinating is that Cliona lives on.
Yeah.
Oh, unquestionably, Cliona lives on. I might ask Phil, if you wouldn't mind, as part of Cliona's Foundation, just to put the URL into the chat box. You could send it directly there to everyone, if that's okay. So that we can put out there. Anybody, if there's, Shelley mentioned earlier at the top of the show that there might be some groups out there who are listening to this show on a regular basis. If you're in a company situation and you're looking for something to support, something worthwhile to support, well then, check out Cliona's Foundation. Brendan, so that we capture it in dialogue, can you tell us what the web address is?
It's www.clionas.ie. So clionas.ie will get you there directly to our website.
Clionas.ie, great stuff.
And Colm, it's important too to realise that even though the charity is called Clionas, originally when it started it was called the Cliona Ring Foundation, and we were profiled on The Secret Millionaire a couple of years ago, and he became a mentor of ours, Richard Mulcahy, and he said, do you mind dropping the ring out of it? Because he didn't know it, and he said and we said, Richard, this has nothing got to do with the rings, it's got nothing to do with Cliona. We did retain Cliona, but whatever it's called, it's not her shrine. It's not like that. And I want people to understand that. It's in her memory, and definitely, and it's because she lived and does still live, and we continue, but it's in her name we're doing it. That's it. But our passion is to help the families.
I think that's very obvious, but thank you for clarifying it. It's interesting, we wouldn't have picked up on that part of your journey, and all the little challenges that get thrown in your way, and the stuff that you don't think about, and then somebody asks you to consider something, and there's going to be lots of soul searching through the whole journey, and I'm sure that continues to this day. So look, we wish you every success. We wish, in terms of you helping more families, in terms of Cliona living on and helping more families, for whatever reason, she was brought to you, and she lives on through you. And I'm going back to what you said about the families who send you those thank you notes. They are thanking you because they know for sure that you and Terry went through this, right? This isn't just, it's not a corporation. It's real people helping real people. So, look, let us offer you a round of applause. That's the Coffee at 11 round of applause, just to wish.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yourself and Terry and all at Cliona's Foundation, all the best into the future.
And Colm, just before I go, I'd just like to really thank Terry for the work she does. She works at home, and she works directly with the families. I feel she's at the harder end of it, and she does roll up her sleeves and go to fundraisers and does all of that. But to deal with the families day in, day out, deal with the social workers, it's heart-wrenching, and well done, Terry, well done.
Lovely that you said that. While you were talking earlier, I sent Terry a little message, asked her did she want to come in on the show. She respectfully declined.
She's saying no.
Yeah, no, she did. She respectfully declined. But Terry, all our very best to you, all our love and support to you, and our prayers for the success of your venture. Listen, let's just quickly take it back, if you don't mind, because one of the really interesting things this morning is that you've got, if you like, two parallel and intertwined projects that you're involved in, and one of which in this next phase of its development could support the other. In other words, that Brendan Ring might be able to step aside and do more work with Cliona's. So can you tell us what you believe the future is like post-COVID for Cube?
I think we're going to go from strength to strength. I believe that, and is that we didn't have to wait for COVID. We got a rude awakening in 2009 when Dell left, and we've been working since then to, as I said earlier on, to ensure that this company will survive, irrespective of who set it up or who owns it or doesn't own it, that it will always remain on as a business. It's not my business, even though I'm the majority shareholder. That's nothing got to do with it. It's got about, we provide a service, it's very important. We made our decisions almost 10 years ago to pivot, to change, to be in the markets that required, will always require support, and in our case, print and packaging support, both in the medtech, pharma, the electronics, and the food industry, and that's where we see ourselves. We've invested in the packaging, so we're going to grow that again. We actually put in a brand new digital press yesterday, our number 2. We have a number, but a number 2 of a very latest model, because we're going to come out fighting out of COVID. But we are very careful too, and that COVID, like we're not flying here in the sense that we have got the government revenue subsidy to maintain the 35 staff we have here. Yes, we top it up with our 30%, but we've kept everybody in employment, and now we've got to see what's going to be like when that COVID assistance doesn't exist. So we're looking at that, and that'll probably mean some hard decisions as well. But in the meantime, even as late as yesterday morning, we were talking to some medical device users in the west of Ireland to try and grow our business with them. So if all these things happen, I think things will be good for Cube. But irrespective of whatever happens, I still believe that, you know, everything happens for a reason, and there are reasons for it. Some will never work out. And the thing is to try and stay positive in all this. I'm not always positive, I can tell you that. But what I'm trying to say is I'm grateful, and I could keep going back to that. And that's the important thing. And so, yes, we will do very strategic things and innovative things. We'll discuss it, we'll have chats, we'll look at our financial planning models. We'll talk to Kevin and TJ in relation to where they can grow the sales. We'll talk to our team here on quality and make sure that everything we do is of the best quality we can. And our tagline in Cube is exceeding expectations. And that's the culture of this company. That whatever it is, whether a guy wants a flyer or a mortuary card or a thank you card or a wedding card, it doesn't really matter. You treat them as if they are a medtech pharma company, and you exceed what they expect of you. And you go to the 99th level to make sure you provide that service. And if you don't, tell them that you can't and why, and work that out with them and go again. And that's the way it should be. I believe in that. That's the culture that's in this company. It's part of mine. I know TJ believes in it. I know Kevin believes in it. And it's the team that make you what it is. And that's the truth. And I'm very grateful for the team at Cube. And I'm extremely grateful to the support we get from everybody for Cliona's. Really am. Thank you.
It's wonderful. Brendan Ring, you just used a phrase there in that last segment, exceeding expectations. And I don't know what expectations others had for you coming onto the Coffee at 11 show today, but you've exceeded mine for sure. The show is about real people coming in and telling their real story as deep as they want to go, so that other real people in the cafe can just have a listen and see what it says to them. So I want to thank you. You've definitely exceeded our expectations here today. So once again, thank you, Brendan Ray.
Thank you all. Thank you.
We're going to go to Q&A from the floor. We have gone a little over time, folks, but if anybody needs to go, we wish you well and we'll see you tomorrow. Mia Sarah is in the cafe and she's joining us tomorrow. We'll talk about her in just a few moments. But we'd like to go to Q&A from the floor. Before we do that, Brendan, what one tip would you offer to your nearest and dearest? You'd get through COVID best by doing blah. What's that one blah for you?
Look, to get through it, you have to start where you are this morning and just be grateful for what you have, where you're at. And like, if you have that gratefulness every day until COVID is sorted, well then you've got through it. I mean, what's ahead, I don't know. I don't have the answers. I wouldn't claim to have them. But that's it. I know I'm repeating myself, but that's going to get me through anyway. And look, I'm big into fitness, right, and health and that. I do an awful lot of training as well, and I think that whole mental side in relation to being able to switch off as well, you know. And despite what you might think, like, I worried about being on here this morning talking to you guys because I want to put my best foot forward, not from a sales pitch point of view, but like I take all of this very seriously as well. And I'm grateful I'm here, obviously. But like to do that, like, you know, by doing something from a fitness point of view, it takes away the pressure from business end of things, maybe from family things are going on. Like Eamon mentioned his man. I can identify with that because my own man was extremely unwell recently. But like when I got on my bike, not outside, but I have an indoor trainer and that kind of stuff. You know, it just, and that's important as well. So keep mentally strong as well. And, you know, we had a debate recently, Kevin and I, about having structure every single day. I don't agree with that. I'm sorry. What I agree with is that set milestones every day and try and get those done and through the weekend. And if you get them done, and don't put them off, try and do them all, but do them in the time that suits you. Not that 8 to 9, 9 to 10, but we have enough of that. So I don't know if that explains it or not.
It explains it. It explains it beautifully. It explains it beautifully. Real people telling the real story to other real people. Thanks for that. You mentioned fitness. We're going to go to Q&A. Somebody stick up your hand there if you want to ask a question. I'll get you in a second. You mentioned health and fitness.
Yeah.
And you mentioned training. And rumour has it your neighbours are giving out about your singing. What's that about?
Yeah. I was supposed to do an Ironman in July in Austria, and I've been training for that. It only got cancelled yesterday morning, but you have to keep going. And again, try, as if it was going to happen. You knew it wasn't, but you couldn't take any chances. So really, Kerry came in. I had, thank God, got a kind of a little gym set up outside in the garage, but I had my Apple Music on, and I'm only after finding out only 3 days ago, Terry said, Brendan, the whole, you know, like I live in rural Ireland down in Lough, but you know, in the fields, everybody hears you singing and roaring. You can't sing. Will you please quieten it down? So I was always wondering why they were laughing at me when I used to meet them in the store or passing out or at church or whatever, and now I know why. So I've got to tone it down a small little bit. But
so images of Julie Andrews floating around the fields came to mind, but apparently you're not Julie Andrews. We're going to go to Mia. I saw Mia with her hand up.
Hi, Brendan and Terry, and thank you so much for that absolutely beautiful sharing. You mentioned briefly that there was a book, and I was curious because you speak very much of the aliveness of Cliona, and I can really feel it in how you speak of her. And I was just wondering, is the book written from memory, or do you believe she's speaking through the book with you? Or how has it been put together, sort of?
There's a story behind the book, obviously. The overall guiding story is that, and I mean this kind of, if I can put it right, we didn't want to forget Cliona ever, of who she was and what she was. Not that you'd forget her, you couldn't, but you wanted to remember all those stories and her life and how other people saw her. And Cliona used to write notes to us if she wanted us to do something, or to, and other family members, but particularly to Terry and I. And it's not funny, but we've even found notes within the last year or so that she's written to us, she's left. So the book is called, I printed them, or we printed them here in Cube, Cliona's notes. And she wrote those notes, said, Daddy, could I sleep, Mammy, tonight, it's windy outside, and all this kind of stuff. It's all in the book, right? Even though it's only draft 1, because it's got to go back and we got to tidy it up. And Terry is actually working through it at the moment. So the book is about, at the introduction, which I mentioned earlier on, Cliona tells us how she saw us reacting to the diagnosis. But after that, we call it a note to Cliona. So now everybody that knew her is writing back to her to talk to her about how she affected their lives and what she has done for us. And it ultimately ends up at the very end where we are today. And there's school teachers, there's priests, there's family friends, there's uncles, aunts, her parents obviously were in it, grandparents, people that were interviewed 2 years ago, they're no longer with us. So it's a note to Cliona. And it's in the book. Whether we're going to publish it publicly or not, let's see where that goes. It's not the intention. If it were to be commercially successful, well then all that money will go to Cliona's, but that's not the reason it was written. Genuinely, it's not. But it's a note to Cliona about the effect she's had on our lives and all the lives of the people around her and the work that's continued to be done in her name.
Oh, that's really beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. And I look forward to reading it if it does become published. Yeah, really beautiful.
Mia, thank you for coming in with that lovely question. And Mia will be on the show tomorrow. We'll talk about that in just a few moments. Going to hand over to Princess Shelley, who's going to just tell us what's been going on in the cafe, Brendan, while you and I were chatting.
Okay.
Princess Shelley, you're live.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Brendan, for such a heartwarming interview. We've got some beautiful comments here in the chat section. Eamon was the first to comment. He said, pivot, this has become a mantra for me during COVID. So I think he's kind of agreeing with you in the usage of this word becoming something we're all kind of familiar with during this crisis, you know. Eamon then went on to say, he quoted you and you said, we were grateful we had a loan of her. That is such a moving, humbling, inspiring view. It's clear you honour Cliona in everything you do. Brendan and Terry, thank you for sharing. So yeah, I think he encapsulated that very, very nice. I think you're great. Daphne Green, who of the Green Hills, she was our guest yesterday and she joined us for a little while. She's had to go, but before she left, she popped in and she said, what an inspiration Brendan Ring is to give back. Is so important. Well done to Brendan and Terry and the whole team at Cliona's Foundation. She will be so proud of her family. So yeah, let's do our little round of applause for that. So Mia, who you just had a question from, said, what a beautiful, generous family through pain, great loving kindness is birthed. So again, I think that's a really beautiful comment. I made a little note of that in my notebook. Susan is in joining us this morning, so did Eamon. Susan has joined us this morning. She said, good morning everyone from Madrid.
Oh.
This is a rare and unique set of qualities being shared by Brendan that is both inspirational and energizing. Thanks Brendan and Terry for your joyful giving of yourselves to help so many. And that's Susan joining us from Spain. Isn't that lovely, Brendan?
Really nice. Lovely comments. Thanks everybody. Really encouraging.
Eamon then popped into the chat group for everyone so they can access all your platforms, Brendan. He's popped in the Cliona's website and the Cube website and your LinkedIn and Facebook profiles. So hopefully people will check those out. Great. So Eamon's done a little bit of work popping that in. And then Terry, although she declined to come on live, she did pop into the chat box and said, hi everybody, thank you for the round of applause and thank you Colm and team for giving Brendan and I the opportunity for both Cube and Cliona's. This is my first coffee morning in the cafe and it's such a great idea, Terry. And just before she did stop the comment, she also said, I didn't say that you can't sing. So that sounds to me like an invitation for a serenade later on. So Katrina said, who is of course customer services in O'Mahony's, she's joined us, she's an editor-in-chief. She said she can guarantee that that book would sell, that Cliona's book that you're talking about, and she's got her finger on the pulse. She would know. And she also said, she actually messaged as well, and she said, as a native of Elton, we all know of Cliona's Foundation and the amazing work that they do. This time, 3 years ago, my niece Leanne, at the age of 5, donated her hair to Rapunzel, whilst also raising over €1,000 for Cliona's. Katrina is very proud of her. I think little Leanne deserves a round of applause there, doesn't she?
Yes.
So that is the end of our comment section, guys. I'm actually going to hand back to Colm at this stage, just to wind up today's interview. And just for myself, I made a note here that I loved, Brendan, my real takeaway for today is you don't have to be happy all the time, but you can be grateful. And I really, really loved that. Thank you so, so much. Colm, it's back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you, Princess Shelley. Folks, that was just beautiful. That was just fantastic just to see all the love, the outpouring of love. And welcome, Susan from Madrid. Lovely to have you in the cafe. But it's just been a joy, Brendan and Terry. Terry quietly in the background, keeping the wheels rolling. An absolute joy having you on. It was a joy because you brought us to places that, you were willing to. And thank you for that, because you've allowed Cliona's memory live on one more time in a new environment. Let's see where it'll lead. So it's been a pleasure. I know there were other questions that people want to ask, but let's respect the time if that's okay. We appreciate everybody giving an hour of their time. So one last time, let's give Brendan and Terry Ring a heartfelt round of applause, and we wish you every success. So before I let you all go, let me just tell you that Mia, I'm terribly sorry, Mia, who came in for that question earlier, is my guest on the Coffee at 11 show tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to that. Now, this is an interesting one, right? Mia is founder of the Mia Method. Okay, what's the Mia Method? It helps women relax into themselves. Now, that's very curious, right? It's very curious. So I'm really intrigued by what that all means. I'm sure all the men at the cafe are too. So definitely one for the ladies tomorrow, but that doesn't mean it's not one for the men, because I think men need to come in here and have a listen to see what the women are, what makes them tick. So I'm really looking forward to that, Mia. I'm excited about finding how women relax into themselves through the Mia Method. So folks, it's been a pleasure having you all on. It's been a pleasure. Thank you to the team, Princess Shelley for producing, Eamon Smith, head of guest service, and of course Katrina O'Brien, who's working away in O'Mahony's, but is our editor-in-chief, and we'll make this beautiful for dissemination later tonight. Just going back to what Katrina did say, she is customer services in O'Mahony's, and that book will sell for, and O'Mahony's, I know this from personal experience, will embrace that local story, local book, and get behind it if that's the route you choose to go. I'm 100% sure of that. Right, Brendan Ring.
Thanks everybody. I really appreciate the opportunity, Colm, and wish you well with your venture. I think it's a great idea, and I'll be online watching and listening. Please God.